The crowd went silent.
Speak to me like that?
Right there in front of the cafe
You are
in
a
Maitama,
disgusting
Sandra
pig.
hurled her drink at the old driver's face. The splash echoed louder than the traffic around them. "You useless man," she screamed, her voice trembling with rage. "I told you to open the door before I stepped out, didn't I?" The poor man stood there, soaked, humiliated, his white shirt stained with red wine. He didn't say a word. He simply wiped his face and bowed his head in silence. The crowd began whispering, phones came out, cameras started rolling. But what Sandra didn't know, what made this moment unforgettable, was that the driver she just embarrassed wasn't just anyone. He was Mr. Williams, one of Abuja's most powerful billionaires, and the father of her fiancé, Raymond. And Raymond? He was right there, watching, frozen in disbelief. His heart broke as he realized the truth. The woman he was about to introduce to his father that evening had just drenched him in public, screaming at him like he was nothing. What happened next shocked everyone. Hey family, welcome to the channel. Where are you watching from today? I'd really love to connect with you. Drop your location in the comments. If you love stories that touch the heart and open your eyes to life's unexpected lessons, then hit that subscribe button right now, because what's about to unfold will leave you speechless. Abuja was glowing that evening, the city skyline painting soft gold over the streets of Jabi. Raymond sat at the corner of a rooftop restaurant, his eyes fixed on the woman across the table, Sandra, the woman who had, in just 3 months, completely changed his world. She laughed lightly, her manicured fingers brushing the rim of her glass. She was elegance personified, confident, radiant, and commanding attention without even trying. To Raymond, she was perfection. To others, she was intimidating. But love, as always, is blind to warning signs. Raymond, at 32, was one of Abuja's youngest CEOs, heading Williams Group Holdings, a powerful empire built by his father, Mr. Williams, over 3 decades. Despite his wealth, Raymond lived simply. No loud parties, no flashy cars. He believed in quiet success, and that humility was power. So when he met Sandra at a friend's birthday dinner, he didn't lead with his title. He introduced himself simply as Raymond. No CEO, no billionaire son, just a man searching for something real. Sandra, meanwhile, had a different kind of charm, one sharpened by ambition. She was beautiful, but her beauty carried pride, like a crown she wore effortlessly. People noticed her everywhere she went, and she loved being noticed. In the first few weeks, Raymond found her confidence magnetic. She spoke about luxury vacations, designer brands, and the kind of life she deserved. To him, that was just confidence, not greed. He told himself she had goals, and maybe she just wanted the best out of life. But Mr. Williams saw through the glamour long before Raymond did. Mr. Williams had built an empire from nothing, starting as a trader in Garki before his companies expanded into oil, real estate, and logistics. He had seen too many faces wear false love. So when he met Sandra briefly at a charity event, something about her made him uneasy. She didn't look him in the eye when they shook hands. Her smile seemed practiced. Her attention drifted the moment a richer guest walked by. And as a father, he felt it deep in his gut, the quiet alarm that only years of wisdom could ring. He didn't voice it at first. He didn't want to seem controlling. But one evening, after Raymond mentioned plans to propose, Mr. Williams called his old friend and driver, Musa, and said, "I want to see something for myself, quietly." Raymond had no clue what his father was planning. A few days later, Mr. Williams, a billionaire known for his poise and reputation, disguised himself in simple clothes, a plain shirt, old trousers, a faded cap. He looked 10 years older, blending perfectly into the shadows of everyday Abuja. Through a contact, he learned Sandra was looking for a new driver, someone humble, obedient, and quiet. It was the perfect setup. And so, Mr. Williams applied under a fake name, Mr. William Johnson. When Sandra interviewed him, she didn't even glance up from her phone. "You know how to drive a Range Rover?" she asked, scrolling through her messages. "Yes, Ma," he said calmly. "Good. Don't ever be late. I hate lateness. And don't touch my things. Ever. Understood?" "Yes, Ma." That was all it took. The billionaire was hired as her driver. And from that day, the test began. Mr. Williams drove Sandra through the bright streets of Abuja, to salons, to high-end boutiques, to restaurants where she laughed too loudly and boasted about how her man was rich and powerful. He listened quietly, never judging, never reacting, just observing. Little did she know, the man holding the steering wheel was silently holding her fate. For the first few days, Sandra's new driver experienced what she called her normal routine. Morning rides to her boutique in was 2, midday trips to expensive restaurants for meetings, and evening drop-offs at friends' houses where laughter and gossip filled the air. At first, she kept her tone professional, giving curt instructions and avoiding small talk. But as days turned to weeks, something changed. The politeness faded, replaced by impatience, sharp words, and a sense of entitlement that bled through every command. "Driver, don't you know how to open a door properly? You drive like an old man. Why are you so slow? Can't you move faster?" Her words sliced the air like knives. Mr. Williams would only nod quietly, his expression unreadable. He had been called worse in his lifetime. Success had taught him that patience reveals people more than anger ever could. Still, every insult hurt, not because of the disrespect, but because this was the woman his only son wanted to marry. One hot Thursday afternoon, Sandra stormed out of a spa at Jobby Lake Mall. She was fuming, her voice echoing across the parking lot. "Driver," she snapped, "how many times will I tell you not to park under the sun? My skin can't handle heat." Mr. Williams quietly stood by the car door, holding it open. "I'm sorry, Ma. I'll remember next time." "You better," she muttered, sliding into the back seat and slamming the door. As they drove off, he glanced briefly at her through the rearview mirror. She was scrolling through her phone, smirking at messages from friends, messages that made his heart sink. "Girl, that Raymond guy is loaded," one read. "Make sure you lock him down before December." Sandra typed a reply, smiling smugly. Mr. Williams's hands tightened on the steering wheel, but his face remained still. That night, as he removed the cap that had become part of his disguise, Mr. Williams stared at himself in the mirror. He saw not a billionaire, but a father, broken by what he was discovering. "So this is the woman my son loves," he whispered. "She has beauty, but no kindness." He had met women like her before, people who loved what money could offer, not who they were with. But this was different. This time, the victim was his son. He made up his mind to continue the test, to observe longer, even if it hurt. The mistreatment grew worse. Sandra began ordering him to carry her shopping bags, polish her shoes, and even wait for hours in the car without food. Sometimes, she'd come out of restaurants laughing with friends, pretending not to see him. Other times, she'd call him slow, useless, or too old to work properly. The once gentle rhythm of Abuja's streets began to feel heavier with every passing day. And yet, Mr. Williams never reacted. His silence was a storm waiting for the right time to thunder. One Saturday afternoon, while Sandra was inside a restaurant at Gorimpa having lunch with her friends, Raymond called. "Dad, I think it's time you met Sandra properly," he said excitedly. "She's special, and I want you to know her before I propose." Mr. Williams paused, his heart tightening. He could hear the joy in his son's voice. "All right, son," he replied softly. "Let's meet her soon." The date was set, dinner at the family mansion in Asokoro the following weekend. But before that dinner would ever happen, something else, something public, unforgettable, and humiliating, would tear everything apart. And it would happen in broad daylight, with cameras rolling. It was a bright Saturday afternoon in Maitama, Abuja. The sun blazed fiercely, making the streets shimmer like molten glass. Sandra had just finished lunch with her friends at Crave Lounge, one of those upscale places where influencers posed more than they ate. Mr. Williams waited patiently beside the car, dressed in his faded uniform, cap low, posture humble. Sweat rolled down his forehead, but he didn't complain. He'd been standing for nearly 40 minutes while Sandra laughed inside, her voice rising above the restaurant chatter. Finally, the glass door swung open. Sandra strutted out in her designer heels, her perfume clouding the air, followed by two of her friends who whispered and giggled as they approached the car. "Driver," she called sharply. Didn't I tell you to keep the car cool before I came out? It's like an oven in here. Mr. Williams bowed slightly. I'm sorry, Ma. The car's AC had a little delay. I'll fix it right away. Her friend smirked. Sandra, why are you still keeping this old man? He looks like he should be in a retirement home. Sandra laughed, that kind of cruel laugh that feeds on attention. You're right, girl. Maybe I should just fire him today. Mr. Williams didn't respond. He simply opened the door for her. But Sandra wasn't done. She turned sharply, holding her half-full glass of red wine, and said, And next time, when I'm calling you, don't keep me waiting like some low-class driver. Before anyone could blink, she poured the drink in his face. Gasps filled the air. The red liquid splashed across his white shirt, dripping down his neck. He stood there, still, his face unreadable. Phones came out. People began recording. Just across the street, a black SUV pulled over. Raymond stepped out, smiling, bouquet in hand, excitement written all over his face. He had planned to take Sandra shopping before heading home to prepare for the evening dinner, where she'd finally meet his father. But as he approached, his smile faded. He saw the crowd first, then the woman at the center of it. Sandra, screaming, laughing. And in front of her, drenched, humiliated, was his father. The world seemed to stop. Dad? Raymond whispered, his voice trembling. Mr. Williams slowly turned his head, eyes locking with his son's across the crowd. The disguise, the patience, the weeks of silence, all of it dissolved in that moment. Raymond's knees weakened. The crowd began murmuring louder. Someone shouted, Isn't that Raymond from Williams' group? The cameras shifted toward him. Sandra froze, her laughter dying mid-sentence. She turned and saw Raymond standing there, shock and heartbreak etched into his face. Our Raymond, she stammered. What are you doing here? He looked at her, his voice shaking. Sandra, what did you just do? I was just. Do you know who that man is? She blinked in confusion. My driver. Raymond's voice broke. That's my father. The crowd gasped. The silence that followed was suffocating. Whispers spread like wildfire. Phones were now pointed at Sandra's face, recording every flicker of panic, every stammered word. She looked around, searching for escape. Wait, Raymond, this can't be. He said his name was. Mr. Williams spoke for the first time. His voice was calm, almost too calm. I told you my name was William Johnson, yes. But I never told you I wasn't a driver. Sandra's lips trembled. Her friend slipped quietly away, pretending not to know her. The weight of her actions hit all at once, the arrogance, the insults, the drink she'd thrown. And now, the entire city was watching. Raymond dropped the bouquet. It hit the ground softly, a symbol of everything broken between them. Sandra, he said quietly, his eyes glistening. The woman I fell in love with would never do this. Not to anyone. Not even to a stranger. Please, Raymond, I didn't know. That's the problem, he interrupted. You never care to know the people beneath you. He turned away, chest heaving, fighting tears. The cameras followed him. And Sandra's nightmare was only beginning. For a long, painful moment, no one spoke. The entire scene outside Crave Lounge in Maitama had gone eerily silent. Even the city's usual hum, the honking, chatter, and blaring music, seemed to fade into nothing. All eyes were on Sandra. Her once proud posture had vanished. She stood trembling, her hands shaking as she wiped the red wine off her palms, as if that would erase what had just happened. Raymond turned to his father, still unable to process what he was seeing. Dad, you disguised yourself? All this while. Mr. Williams nodded calmly. I had to, son. I needed to see the truth for myself. Sometimes love blinds us so deeply that words of warning sound like noise. He looked at Sandra, not with anger, but with deep disappointment. I wanted to believe she was different. But what I saw these past few weeks broke my heart. The murmurs in the crowd grew louder. A few people gasped, others whispered into their phones, already uploading the video. Sandra's eyes darted between them both, desperate and afraid. Please, Mr. Williams. Raymond. I didn't mean to. I didn't know he was your father. Mr. Williams's voice remained steady. So if I weren't his father, your behavior would be justified? Sandra froze. She opened her mouth, but no words came. Raymond's heart was pounding. The woman he dreamed of marrying, the one he believed was kind, warm, and gentle, now stood before him exposed. Her arrogance turned against her. He took a deep breath. Sandra, I've seen you lose your temper before, but I told myself you were just stressed. I saw you snap at waiters, insult attendants, and I still defended you. But this, his voice cracked. This is cruelty. Sandra took a shaky step forward. Please, Raymond. I love you. I didn't mean. Love, he interrupted, his eyes wet. Love doesn't humiliate. Love doesn't degrade people just because they serve you. You poured wine on my father, Sandra. Her lips quivered. I didn't know. Exactly, he said softly. You never care to know anyone unless they can give you something. The crowd murmured again, agreeing. Someone whispered, God will punish pride. By now, reporters from a nearby outlet had arrived, cameras rolling, mics thrust forward. Mr. Raymond Williams. Is it true your father was disguised as her driver? Miss Sandra, do you have anything to say about humiliating one of Abuja's richest men? Sandra covered her face, trying to push through the flashing lights. The same pride that once made her untouchable now left her helpless. Raymond stepped forward, facing the cameras. His voice was calm, but broken. This is not the woman I thought I knew. I can't stand beside someone who treats others this way. He turned towards Sandra, eyes filled with pain. Sandra, I can't marry you. I'm calling off the engagement. Right here, right now. The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone screamed. Sandra staggered backward, her world collapsing in slow motion. No, Raymond, please, she cried. Don't do this. I'll change, I swear. He shook his head. It's too late. Change comes from humility, not desperation. For the first time since it all began, the entire crowd went quiet again. Mr. Williams stepped forward, placing a gentle hand on his son's shoulder. Let's go, son. They turned and began walking toward their car. Behind them, Sandra fell to her knees, crying uncontrollably as the cameras continued to roll. Her once perfect makeup streaked down her face. Her designer dress now clung to her in shame. The woman who once strutted through Abuja like royalty was now the face of a viral tragedy. Within minutes, the video hit social media. Hashtag Sandra and the driver trended across platforms. Everyone had an opinion, but one truth stood clear. Money can buy attention, but not respect. 2 days later, the entire city of Abuja was still buzzing. Clips from that humiliating scene outside Crave Lounge had gone viral. Everyone had an opinion, from street vendors in Was to corporate workers in Central Business District. Sandra's name had become a cautionary tale. Influencers dissected her behavior. Morning shows debated it. Even comedians turned it into skits. In her small apartment in Guarimpa, Sandra sat curled up on her couch, eyes swollen from days of crying. Her phone buzzed nonstop, missed calls, messages, and hundreds of hateful comments. She tried to scroll past them, but one headline made her freeze. Billionaire CEO calls off engagement after fiancé humiliates his father. The driver test gone wrong. Her hand trembled as she dropped the phone. For the first time in her life, Sandra felt small, not because of money, but because of regret. Her mind replayed every moment she'd shared with Mr. Williams, or the driver, as she once called him. How he always opened the car door with a smile. How he once warned her gently, "Madam, life humbles the proud." How she ignored him, snapping, "You're paid to drive, not to advise." Now she understood what he meant. She closed her eyes and whispered through her tears, "I disrespected the wrong man and lost everything because of it." Meanwhile, in his office at Williams Holdings, Raymond sat silently by the window overlooking the Abuja skyline. The city shimmered under the evening sun, calm, unbothered, a sharp contrast to the storm brewing inside him. He wasn't angry anymore, just disappointed. He had loved her deeply, defended her when his friends warned him. He even planned to propose at the dinner that never happened. "I almost married a stranger," he muttered to himself. His father entered quietly. Mr. Williams looked at his son for a long moment before speaking. Son, I didn't mean to embarrass you. I only wanted to protect you from a pain that could have lasted a lifetime. Raymond nodded slowly. You didn't embarrass me, Dad. You saved me. They shared a heavy silence. In that quiet, Raymond realized that his father's test wasn't just for Sandra. It was for him too. To remind him that love isn't about beauty, class, or wealth, but about humility and heart. Family, let me ask you something real. If the person you love had nothing, would you still stand by them? Drop your answer in the comments, because this story right here isn't just fiction. It's a mirror for all of us. And if you're still watching, it means you felt this one deep. So please, hit that subscribe button and join this growing family of stories that remind us what truly matters. Weeks passed. Sandra vanished from the public eye. Rumors said she left Abuja for Port Harcourt, trying to start afresh under a different name. But some wounds, no matter the distance, follow you. Mr. Williams, however, continued his quiet life, now with a deeper gratitude for truth. He'd seen people fake smiles for his money, but this time, he'd found honesty in disguise. He told Raymond one evening, Son, the right woman will never treat a driver differently from a CEO. That line stayed with Raymond for a long time.